Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's another happy Monday. I'm Haggerty 10, as you can see from the Twitter handle, Tony Haggerty, and I'm joined by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. How you doing, Sean?
Not bad, Tony. Intrigued about what's up at the top left of my screen.
Yes, indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice we have a new sponsor. Yay! And it's called One Football. As you can see, big logo. It's if you download the One Football app, it's a one-stop shop for football scores, news, lineups, etc., etc. Go onto the One Football app. The link's in the description, but they've gladly sponsoring the show, so that's good news, Sean, isn't it? And as you can see along the bottom, the usual drill, £3 for the next 3 months. If you hit the subscribe button, you can join us at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. But good news, Sean. Happy Monday. Football sponsor for the show. Can't beat it. The One Football app. Ladies and gentlemen, get that downloaded onto your phones. How are you, Sean?
Aye, fine and dandy, Tony. Aye, it's been an interesting weekend, isn't it?
It has indeed. And I alluded to there, another happy Monday. Celtic are now officially, arithmetically, Sean, 1 point away from clinching the title after another fantastic performance on Saturday against Hearts. 4-1 was the score. I don't think either of us got it right. I said 3-0.
I said 3-1, aye, until Big Giakoumakis rattled the back of the net there. I was on for a... And tell you what, but Carl Starfelt is absolutely robbing me every week, every single week.
I'll give you a hat tip, Sean. If ever there was a day I was disappointed to get 10 out of the starting 11, because you tweeted that you get 11 with the bull shout with Turnbull coming in, but we did discuss that at length on Friday, so I don't feel so bad because we were of the opinion that he might do it, but you were brave enough to put it in.
It's just good to know Postecoglou tunes in regularly.
Correct, Amigo, because we do not too bad with our team lineups, to be fair, so we're usually on the cusp of 10-11 most weeks, so that's decent. Good shooting, though. I'll tip my hat to you. But 4-1, Sean, a bad first 5 minutes, I believe, and then straight back into it. Maeda, Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly, and Giakoumakis, the scorers, and a competent performance, Sean, bordering on some scintillating stuff at times, eh?
I thought it was a really good performance. First 10-15 minutes aside, basically till the first goal, till Celtic's first goal, obviously. That aside, I think it was a really good performance, actually, statistically, the way that it looked, the way that they passed the ball, everything. Given the context, they could almost forgive a wee bit of nerves at the start as well.
Yes.
Indeed. And I wrote in my kind of reflective piece after it that's only the second time they've conceded in the first 5 minutes in the league. So they're not used to that, despite I've seen more than a few kind of articles and narratives, like, oh, well, they're used to coming back from being behind. They're rarely behind. It's maybe used to be getting pegged back and then going ahead again, but they're not used to going behind that early. And they recovered from that, I thought, and as well as they probably could have. It might. I drew the parallel to the Ibrox game where Ramsey. That's the only other time they've went behind that early. Yeah. Ramsey scored, I think, the 3rd minute, 4th minute. And the response to that was obviously now famously Callum McGregor just taking the ball and slicing through. Yes. Now, it might have taken a wee bit longer. They definitely tried it, but it might have taken a wee bit longer against Hearts. But the response was just as emphatic. It was just as good a result, just as positive a result. And the performance was probably even better. I think there was plenty.
I think I said competent there, so I think I meant confident. I mean, so there you go. And I
thought they both.
I think they were Celtic were pretty outstanding at times, and Matt O'Reilly for me is becoming a baller. I already thought he was a baller, but the more and more I see him, and you got to remember he's only 21, Sean.
Yes, he's. I mean, I've spoken about him before. Obviously, when I've done the kind of scouting report when he was signing or just about to sign, when I was doing the kind of background stuff into him, as much as I do the stats and all that, what stood out to me was the kind of that attitude. I've said it to you before on here. That attitude of kind of backing yourself. That's not a kind of a mentality that's taught. He could have. I mean, all right, he's a Danish under-21 international now, but it was obviously a bright talent in England ranks in terms of that. Down south, playing for Fulham, well regarded at Fulham. Remember, he wasn't ditched by Fulham. He was offered 3 years and turned it down because he wasn't going to get a pathway to the first team. Now, that obviously was just before a pandemic hit. And he famously, I think it was the Athletic writer down South, pointed out he was training in the kind of local park with his dad to keep fit, all that kind of thing. Went to MK Dons and has now won a move to Celtic. That kind of mentality to back yourself, because there's plenty that would not have blamed him for taking 3 years and never really breaking into the first team. But the way that he speaks since he came up, the way that he's bought into the way that Ange Postecoglou sold him the club, that kind of thing, and the way that he's played, to me, it's been a great signing for just over $1 million.
The reason I brought his name up, Sean, was because I was at Hamilton Races yesterday and overheard the conversation. A boy came away with a great line. He said he was trying to say that Matt O'Reilly was two-footed, and he said you can just tell he's a player. He's ambidextrous with both feet, and I just thought that's wonderful. That's just a wonder. I don't think compliments of your footballing ability get any higher than that. He's ambidextrous with both feet. I guess, and I was.
It was only a hop, skip, and a jump until the Lubo pass was there, I think.
I was dying to walk back and say he's two-footed. Is that what
he's two-footed? Aye.
Is that the phrase that you're looking for? But yeah, I mean, he showed on Saturday, Sean, hit the post with the left, scored with the right.
Aye. He said a few of those.
Yeah, he's had a few of those
where he's hit the woodwork, and he's maybe had a couple. Because in my scouting report, the kind of his shooting accuracy was one of the things that I wasn't kind of didn't look great. But even that, since he came up, was, I mean, I wouldn't say he's been wasteful. He's just been unlucky. He's hit the post a few times. He deserved probably more than a goal. And that chance, it was you says to me after the game, that chance was arguably the harder of the chances that he scored. But he deserved his goal. Even if he didn't score, he would have been up there for man of the match for me. But he did score, and I thought he had a great game again.
Yeah, I just can't think of him now without thinking of him being ambidextrous with both feet. You know what I mean? It's
AKA he can walk.
Yeah. It was one guy was talking about a Celtic player and he was calling him hopeless, and he said he played like Edward Scissors feet. So whenever I kind of laughed, I was just like, wow, these kind of things. Brilliant. Pattle's great. I love it. Now, going back to Turnbull, I thought Turnbull was very good. And I mentioned in my man-to-man ratings that for the hour he was on the park, he always looked to try and manoeuvre himself into space for a shot. Didn't always come off. And he always looked to play the killer pass as well. But the great thing about Turnbull is he now knows the levels that other players have reached. So he has to. We spoke about that on Friday, that he knows he has to, if he wants to be a fixture in the team, raise his own levels. And I thought for the hour or so he was on the park, allowing for some rushiness as well, that he actually played very, very well.
That's what I agree with you. I think obviously I had kind of talked it up. I'd convinced myself as much as anything having that conversation with Alison on the Thursday and then with you on the Friday. By the time we logged on, I'm like, no, Turnbull's got to start. But I didn't actually think he would, to be honest. I put it in my predicted lineups, but I did say I think he probably will go either Hatate or Rogic. But when I saw him starting, you better believe I rubbed it in. But it was...
Well, of course. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
He did well. And as Rob says, I thought the two of them looked quite good together.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's one game. Not even a game an hour when you think of when they were both on the park together. But I thought he'd done well. And you're right to say I account for some rustiness because it's his first start since that League Cup final. Yeah. And even the sub appearances have been kind of few and far between in terms of since he came back. It's not been that long.
Lost Sean.
So, sorry, you lost me still? My back?
We lost you for a second there, Sean, but you're back.
No, just his sub appearances have been kind of not few and far between in terms of he's not been back that long. So I think you're right to point out, account for some level of rustiness, but I liked the two of them together. I thought he'd done well. I thought he played quite well. And plus, you get his set pieces, you get his delivery. All right, you never got his kind of long distance shooting. He kind of couldn't quite manoeuvre himself into those positions, but he was trying.
Yeah, he was closed down a lot because Hearts put a lot of players behind the ball, which didn't get. He wasn't allowed to move himself into that space, but no good. And also as well, so I thought Hatate did really well when he came on.
Aye.
Made him
it was a kind of cameo, but I agree with you. I thought he'd done well. Aye.
And Giakoumakis with his usual obligatory one-touch finish. I mean, it's I actually agree with that, David. I have to say, I think that Giakoumakis could really come to the fore next season, and I think Giakoumakis will be the kind of guy that you'll need for European adventure, Sean. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think he'd be the kind of guy that, if you're going to play one up, I know he likes to play with 4-3-3, that kind of stuff, but I think he might have to put in some shifts next season, but I'm quite confident he can do that, and I'm confident if you put the ball in front of him, he'll score.
think about that, Tony? Patrick, do you think we might need to shift Kyogo over to the wing to get him and Giakoumakis on the park together?
Well, he said he's not averse to it. He said he could. It's an option that he might explore. I don't know. I tend to agree with you that if Kyogo's fit, he's the main striker. But sometimes you just need to do things differently, don't you? Mix it up a bit. So we'll see what he's thinking is behind that. But I think maybe next season you might see the two of them feature together at some point. When Kyogo switches with me.
I mean, I'm kind of you mentioned there, but I still think.
Yeah, I still think
Kyogo's a central striker.
Yeah, I still do as well.
I take Jason's point. Kyogo did frequent the left wing a couple of times, but I wouldn't say full blown switch. Not the way that Jota and Maeda actually switched positions and stuff. I think that was more just that's where they found themselves at that point. I don't think it was necessarily a switch. It's not something that I would rule out totally in terms of an in-game change.
Yeah.
If you want both on the pitch, but let's say Kyogo's having a really good game, but you want to bring Giakoumakis on, but you really don't want to take Kyogo off, there's no reason you can't do it. Just as a routine kind of option, I wouldn't expect it. I don't think it gets the best out of Kyogo. And I think given the way that Kyogo plays when he's left wing, I don't necessarily think it would get the best out of Giakoumakis either. So, no, in other words, but it's again, it's always good to have options. You can do it if you need to. So
yeah. I mean, I still think like yourself that Kyogo's a centre forward, not through the middle player. I mean, nothing will convince me otherwise. I think Ange sees him as that as well, doesn't he?
I think so.
Any other good performers? Fed up mentioning Cal Mack because he's just magic.
It's just
that Cal Magic. I think we should change his name to.
I mean, to be honest, after the first 10-15 minutes, I don't think anybody had a bad game. I think they all they all played well. The subs done well when they come on. They kind of contributed. Forrest got an assist. Giakoumakis got a goal. Rogic done all right. I think it was a good team performance in general. You obviously within that you do have standouts. I think O'Reilly had a great game. I think Greg Taylor had a great game again. And that's not just me saying that. Even the statistics back me up this time. If you go on the Twitter account, we put it up yesterday, a kind of breakdown of his game. I thought he had a really good game. Cal McGregor obviously thought he had a good game as well. Did you see the clip after the game when they're walking about going, I thought it would be me and then you and then Jota and all that. But, and on that, Jota again coming up for Celtic. I obviously done the kind of the goals breakdown and who's scoring to kind of the way that I put it was game state changing goals. So changing it from a draw to a win or a defeat to a draw rather than just adding the gloss, if you know what I mean. So goals that are essentially meaningless. And Jota was up there as in the vast majority of his goals actually changed the game for Celtic, that kind of thing. Now, obviously, it was 2 assists. It wasn't a goal. But he set up the equaliser and he set up what was the winner, if you know what I mean. So, again, coming up big.
Yeah, I don't think you can underestimate that contribution because the run for the first goal was very clever, very intelligent, using Kyogo as a decoy and then being able to pick out Maeda. It's all right saying that looked an easy pass, but you've got to execute it. And he did it very well. And then the second one, the actual header back across where it came from, was up some height.
Giakoumakis would have been proud of that leap.
And Kyogo's put his head in where it hurts, but I liked O'Reilly dinking a cross out, which was a terrific cross. To the back post, and Jota got up well to meet it. And, as you say, that was effectively the winner because once Celtic went in front, I didn't see them relinquishing that lead.
Nah. With that first goal, I mentioned this in my reflective piece and we spoke about it when we were on the phone after it. I don't think you can underestimate how quickly that decision's got to be made in terms of not to pass it to Kyogo, that he was offside, and then obviously to execute the actual run forward and then pull it back across. All of that was, I think, quite underrated, how quick you had to realise and process that decision to make it. So Jota, standout.
I just think...
literally, I don't think anybody had a bad game after the opening 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think good players make those things look easy, Sean, don't they? That's the thing about it, isn't it? That Jota just kind of knew what he was doing from the moment he picked up the ball and then went on the run. And, Maeda's provided the finish as well. And a great call from the linesman for the second goal.
It was, I
know Andy Walker was saying he guessed.
I was going to say, did you hear Andy Walker?
I mean,
He might be right, to be honest, because it was very tight, but it was clearly over when you seen the replay. There was no doubt about
Craig Gordon disputed the fact that it wasn't over, but I think TV pictures were conclusive, and a lot of people were saying that Hart's goal might have been offside, and the one that Jota scored wasn't. You know, I think
the Hearts goal was on Starfelt's foot. Because initially I thought it might be, but no.
Jota's is marginal. You know, I thought we could have got that. No, it was. I don't know. Wasn't much
it was marginal as well. The other one, the kind of I think Robbie Nielsen was talking about it as well. Was a Cal McGregor foul in the build up to the first the leveller. At first, I didn't think it was a foul, and even when I'm watching it back, I'm still thinking it's marginal. But McGregor said after it, sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. They got it, and I think you said after it, play the whistle anyway.
Well, you're taught from a young age, play the whistle. The one man who matters most didn't say it was a foul or blow for a foul was a referee. So you keep.
To be fair to Robert Nielsen, he did say there was a hell of a lot to be done between that and then Celtic scoring. So I play the whistle was probably the message, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, very much so.
Got a cracking comment here, Ian Mulligan. I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous.
Honestly, I just it'll live with me for a long time. That just funny. You want to see someone's two-footed, brilliant, love it. But no, there's a lot of things to be pleasing about, Sean. The Ange bandwagon moves on to Tannadice on Wednesday, Sean. It's a point needed to make it to clinch it all.
Yep.
You can see Celtic going there and getting a point, can't you?
I can see them going and getting all three, to be honest. I think it's we've been speaking for a few weeks now since the kind of fixtures get released, and I kept saying to you, just because I'd written that 2007-2008 feature, and I'm going, it's going to be Tannadice midweek again for the title. It's not exactly the same circumstances. It's not quite as dramatic. It's more a formality than it was back then. But don't be surprised if there's a headed goal. That's all I'll say.
Yes, from the big blonde centre half.
Well, hopefully.
Would that just make your season now, Sean? Would that put the tin lid in it if a Carol Starfelt goal?
Sure, it would. It would.
In the next couple of games.
As I say, robbing me blind every week. So yes.
No, but there was a lot to be enthused about and pleased about. But also, Sean, I noticed yesterday near Beaton tweeting that thanks for the journey and all this kind of stuff, and various commenters saying he could be heading back to Israel, maybe winding down his Celtic career. If that's the case, I'm sure he'll go with everyone's best wishes. Nothing official yet, but did you see that as kind of a farewell or a cheerio?
It seems that way, but until it's announced, you never really know. There was a report in an Israeli newspaper kind of heavily suggesting that was him on the way out, and he leaves as the kind of the most decorated, I think, Israeli player. I don't know if it's just playing a foreign league or if it's in general. It might be in general. Think about the amount of stuff that he's won here. But I think, that's a fair comment. He's been useful this season. He's kind of in a way, he's kind of revitalised his kind of reputation in a way, because he's been played centre back for so long and done it well to a certain extent. But obviously every year you're seeing the Champions League qualifiers roll around and he's playing centre back again, and he was a kind of the scapegoat for it. Now obviously you can't legislate for his nonsense against Midtjylland in the first game, but overall I think once he moved back to playing centre mid this season, and he's also taking the captain's armband as well, I think you can see he still had it. He still had something to offer, and I think he did it well. I'm thinking of maybe the St Johnstone semi-final, those kind of games where he's played
Livingston away.
Yes, Livingston away again. When the old guard were kind of trusted to break that hoodoo. I think he's going to go with everybody's best wishes. I agree with that. Arguably, it's not the end of the world if he departs, because I don't necessarily think he's an Ange Postecoglou midfielder going forward, but that doesn't change the fact that he's played a big, if not a massive part this season. Yeah,
indeed. We'll come on to it, Sean, in future broadcasts about who we think will be leaving the club.
I've got plenty of time for that. We'll not jump the gun
and the cull that might have to occur. Yeah, indeed. But yeah, I brought it up because it was on Twitter yesterday. So but yeah, I think indeed, I think if he goes, he'll go with the Celtic supporters' best wishes. Now, Sean, Tannadice, you say Celtic have won the league a couple of times in at Tannadice. It's a happy hunting ground. So I guess everyone's just looking forward to Wednesday and actually getting it wrapped up. And it's been a long year, hasn't it? Without success.
It has. And the kind of, what was the phrase you used? Poetic justice in your your kind of reflective piece on the game. There is a poetic justice in a year on, pretty much going back to Tannadice, where you essentially, you did lose the kind of your grip on the crown and on 10 in a row, to come back a year later with everything. Just everything that's going on between those two Tannadice trips, to go up there and in all likelihood win the title back. There is a poetic justice about that, and I think it's almost fitting in a way.
Yeah, the place where you lost, it could be the place where you regain it, and I think Celtic supporters will go up there, travel in their numbers and enjoy it, and then they can get the champagne out for Motherwell on Saturday, Sean. Wonder if Snoop Dogg will fly into town to do the half-time draw or something like that, so that would be funny. Winning at Tannadice class, it would be good. What an occasion!
Don't disagree with that. Dundee Social Club.
That's for other reasons, I would have thought.
No, it's. I think, given that they obviously had a kind of almost a mini lap of honour on Saturday. I think it was an acknowledgement that it was pretty much there, which is what the words that McGregor used, but obviously not quite there. Ange Postecoglou, I hope he enjoyed his film yesterday, but he would have been told that it was going to go to Wednesday. He won't care. None of them will care. They'll only care that it gets done. But I think what will be good for them is that not only will there be a sizable away contingent there if it happens, when it happens on Wednesday, but they still have that kind of final day of the season party back at Parkhead for them, because they'll get the acknowledgement tenfold then.
Of course.
So I think it's almost falling into place in that way as well.
And also, Sean, you contrast a year on the Champions League exit against Michelin, and you would never have predicted that 12 months later you could be as strong as this going into the straight into the Champions League group stages, where arguably you could be the most competitive you've been in a long time. And I think that's something that Celtic supporters are really relishing. The thought of going in and competing, and not just making up numbers, because they now trust the manager, and they now know there's going to be at least 3 or 4 additions to the squad, because the manager's talked about that, and and you never know what could happen, but it's just good to see Celtic's name in there again with the elite clubs in Europe.
Definitely. I mean, on the website today we've got Kevin McKenna, who basically says that that not only being back at that elite table, but he calls it not hiding behind the sofa thinking about it, that kind of thing. Like, now, you never know. Obviously, you had Brendan Rodgers, the kind of cavalier attitude, getting absolutely scudded. You had Neil Lennon's pragmatic kind of attitude, getting some notable results, but hardly having the ball, that kind of thing. Now, we both know Ange Postecoglou's going to measure himself on how well he can implement his style on these bigger teams, or not necessarily bigger teams, but elite teams. And basically Kevin McKenna's column, the gist of it is, don't go into the whole thing. The fan base, as much as anything else, don't get into the whole thing with a defeatist attitude, going, if we drop into Europa League, it's all right, because that's probably our level. Go in and try and compete, try and get out the group, see what happens, play it Ange's way, and by that time you'll have had a proper pre-season, almost 2 months, without having to think about qualifiers and a patchwork team to get there to begin with, because you're there. So everything, if they back them, obviously, is set there to actually have a right good go at them.
See, right now, I'd be disappointed if Celtic don't reach the last 16 of the Champions League. That's before the draw's even been made, and whoever comes in, they're back in where it counts, where it matters. You've got to perform, got to compete. So, from a standing start, I'm like not predicting they'll make it, but that's what I want. Bare minimum, last 16 of the Champions League. Sure, Ange thinks the same. Don't see why anyone should give him a defeatist attitude.
No, they won't. I don't think for a minute.
I don't care about the European results this season, because I always thought that the manager had a year's grace on that. Celtic just weren't ready for any kind of European competition per se, but there was green shoots of recovery there with mentioned before, going to Spain and scoring 3 times, going to Germany, scoring twice, winning in Hungary, and I thought, okay, this is a makeshift team in transition. I want to see it when it's nearer. We talk about phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 2 of the rebuild is now taking it a step further and going in to the Europe's Premier Club competition and making a fist of it and competing. And I think Celtic are well capable of doing that under this manager and with the players that he's going to bring in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think for a minute that the players or the manager or even the board that will be getting into it with that attitude. But Kevin's kind of point is that despite ourselves, some fans will have, well, Europa League, if you drop into Europa League, get a good blah, blah, blah. The kind of Europa League club, all that. Kevin's basically just taking umbrage at that assertion that you should be happy with being a Europa League club, that Celtic shouldn't be happy with that, and regardless of the context, should always be aiming that wee bit higher. And I tend to agree. I think there's nothing wrong with aiming high. And I think as Postecoglou has said that himself, especially when it comes to Europe. Yeah. He didn't want to be in the Conference League. I still think he'll be disappointed with the way that they went out, albeit to a really, really well-drilled Celtic Bodo Glimt side that Celtic could almost emulate in a way in terms of punching above their weight. But when he was in it, he would have wanted to win it, in my opinion. I don't think he would have wanted to just meet up with numbers. He didn't even want to be in Europa League, you've got to remember. He wanted to be in the Champions League. He'll be in it next season, and that's where he'll be hoping to make a mark, and rightly so.
And I still believe that Celtic are a Champions League club. I don't care what anybody says. That's my thoughts and my beliefs. Nobody will convince me of that otherwise either. So,
David's got a fair point, right enough. That's one of the takeaways from the Europa League campaign. But you've got to remember the quality of the opposition in the Europa League groups, the state of Celtic in terms of the squad not having the depth, not having the January signings even at that time for the Europa League groups. That all comes into it. They have had that.
And they still got 9 points from that group, Sean.
Aye.
And not many teams tumble out of a group stage with 9 points. So you look at it and you think they were very unlucky. And they were a work in progress then, and had they managed to scrape through, they could have got better, but we'll see what happens, so that's ifs and buts. But I just still think that they're well capable of making a fist of it in the Champions League. And I back this manager. If he gets the correct backing from the board, I back the manager and the players to do that. And
I've seen that. I put this up because Rab is on the website quite a bit. Always appreciate it. Reading your comments, Rab, and I noticed you said that on a couple of articles that the third season is maybe when proper European impact might take place. Now, there's nothing wrong with aiming for it in the second season, I would argue, but I can see your logic as well in terms of the project and the process and another couple of transfer windows to kind of mould that squad into what Postecoglou really wants it to be. A wee bit of athleticism, a wee bit of technical quality, all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd put it up because Rab, see your comments on the articles. Appreciate it.
Yes, indeed, we always do, Rab. Now we shall wrap this up, and I'll just plug the sponsors again, Sean.
Yep.
We've got a new sponsorship deal. You can see it at the top of your screen, running along the middle of the bottom of your screen there. One Football, and it's a one-stop football shop for all your football scores and news and lineups, etc., etc. Just download the One Football app onto your phone and you'll see all that. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. And if you see along the bottom as well, £3 for the next 3 months if you subscribe to the website www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We move on to Tannadice, Sean, and we discover that winning a league title, City of Discovery, and we'll discover that winning's good. It's a good feeling, isn't it? It's a good feeling. And we'll enjoy that. But thank you to our new sponsor. Thank you to all the commenters. We appreciate it. Thank you to all our subscribers. It's been a wonderful season actually covering the team. It's the first time I've ever covered it from start to finish, and there's been some good moments, Shawnee. The League Cup final and
still 2 to come.
Yeah, 2 to come. Exactly. Yeah, correct. But it's been great having you guys on the journey with us as well, and all the opinions and the different kind of things we've spoken about, because we've not argued much really, because we've all kind of seen it from a similar vein, varied opinion. But it's been great sharing all our thoughts with you guys and trying to second guess Ange along the way. That's been great fun. Sean's probably talked me on that one right enough, to be fair to him.
Well, like marginally, I think because I've had some absolute shockers. I got a 6 out of 11 1 week. But...
that was a hell of a cup tie, I think. I don't think anybody predicted that. Yeah, we've had some good laughs. We've watched some terrific football. We've watched a team in transition become Scottish football champions. You can't ask much more than that, can you, really?
No, it's been great.
So we shall reconvene tomorrow, everybody. But again, another happy Monday. We hope it's a wonderful Wednesday. Tuesday just gets in the way now, doesn't it? Roll on Wednesday, guys. All right, have a wonderful day. Sean, thanks for your contribution. First class as always. Thanks for all your comments, guys. We'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.